Thanks for coming out. Like, I didn't realize there was many people that didn't have anything better to do on a Friday morning. That's true. So thinking about this topic, and Mark, thank you for having me. It's been a little bit of a wild ride. The other day, as I was taking my two boys to middle school, driving through the neighborhoods, kind of seeing the kids going to school, I had this moment. I was kind of like, they have no idea what's in front of them. Meaning, like, you know, the concept of like crossroads and decisions and change. And there was a little bit of clarity. I'm like, holy crap, like that's kind of the genesis of my story in a lot of ways. And then soon after, I was like assigning this song from an old band from the 90s who, like, there's some old faces in here, might recognize change. But the lyrics went on to say, like, and they'll say, hey, look at him. I'll never live that way, and that's okay, and they're just afraid of change. When you feel like life ain't living, you got to stand up, take a look around, look up way to the sky, and when your deepest thoughts are broken, you got to keep dreaming, boy, because that's, my eyes are horrible. Because when you stop dreaming, it's time to die. And it kind of hit me like a bag of bricks in that moment, like, oh my gosh, dropping my kids off in middle school, somewhat judging the other kids walking in their paths and their crossroads. What? That took me back to this moment. That's me. That's me exactly in middle school, Lehigh, Utah. I'm not going to give you the year because you're going to figure out my age or anything. But this was my world, 100%. Like, and it was in that moment for me, as that kid, the excitement, the energy, the visuals, the noise, the community, like that is kind of like where I had a little bit of a crossroad, my first crossroad moment. I'm like, I want to fucking do this the rest of my life. I want to be relevant in this space the rest of my life. I had no idea how I was going to go about doing it, but I'm like, I was determined in that time to try and figure out like how to stay here as long as possible. And if you've been around me at all over the past 20, 40 years, like that's very much me in a nutshell. So, what does this have to do with you guys? As I was thinking about this, it kind of dawned on me that we all have a little bit of this type of a moment in our lives. Like, clearly I had mine at a much younger age, and maybe you have yours also incredibly young. Maybe it was later. Maybe you haven't had it yet, and you're still kind of waiting for that moment. But the idea is that these decisions, like these kind of moments of enlightenment, become chapters in our life. They help steer everything from, this is embarrassing to say, like your aesthetic and how you present yourself and the things that you're into and like your culture and how you raise your kids and how you approach life. These are the moments that are kind of at the crossroads where they affect change. And so the perks of getting old is that I've had a lot of crossroads. For good or for bad, like, you know, there's decisions that need to be made. There's a fork in the road, and I've had them from everything from politics and religion to agency work, how I approach creativity, like my own process. And at every turn, at every crossroad, I kind of have this moment where I kind of have to put myself in check and just ask myself, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what brought you to this moment? And there's sometimes, like in moments of clarity where you're like, okay, I understand why I'm here. I understand what this decision means. And it can be heavy, it can be light, it could be consequential, it could be like very minute. And we have a lot of crossroads daily. Show of hands, I mean, we're all creative, but who's actually in the creative service industry? Servicing client, oh, awesome, you'll get this. There's moments in each of our process where we are making decisions on behalf of our clients, and there's a moment of inflection on like, what do I do? Where's the source of inspiration and passion that I need to go to? For me, what's worked for me is that moment. I kind of have to look back to like that 14-year-old kid and understand what was driving me, what was exciting, is a source of inspiration to return. And as I was preparing this talk, I thought it'd be kind of funny. It's like, because the moments can be heavy or light, we should literally begin to, and jokes on it, I used to hire us the first time in my career, but I felt it was time, finally. That we should just begin to rename these crossroads, name them like kind of lighthearted. Let's talk about it. If we started naming meetings, like kind of diffusing those moments, I think we could better serve our clients, and conversely, like provide a little more insight into like where we're going. So let's talk about it. What about a strategy, cage match, where we're just saying we're going to fight out, we're going to talk out, like where we're going to go, what is this brand going to do, how we're going to grow it, and on annual reviews. Cheers, fears, and careers. Can you imagine going into like your annual review and kind of like having that kind of a tone where it's just a little reflection? So the truth is, we are all crossing guards on some level. Like we kind of stand at those moments of like roads going left or right, and we do it for ourselves, we do it for our clients, and we need to understand how we can best like serve them. And more often than not, like creativity like forces us to make those kind of decisions. Like I said, sometimes they're for us or for our clients. And the result of this is that we are constantly in motion. And motion means that crossroads and changes need to be made. And how we approach those and how we make those in that moments is pivotal. It can be pivotal. Spoiler alert, that's when I have those moments and I need to kind of go back to the well and understand like where I'm taking my life, where I'm taking my career. I point back to like that 14-year-old version of myself, and I remember vividly like the sounds and the feelings and the excitement and the energy that was kind of present in that moment. And it's something that like fuels me as a creative. I would admonish each of you to kind of like go back to that moment as well, kind of reflect like, how is this impacting this decision? What do I need to look for? Where's the passion? Where's that energy? Clearly, when you exist as long as I have, and you've been around as long as I have, there's a lot of crucial, pivotal crossroads. And when I was talking with Mark a little bit earlier, I'm like, is it appropriate to bring in like kind of personal stories, like personal experiences? Like, yeah, 100%. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to get myself into today. I didn't know if it was just going to be like, oh, here's some work that I did 50 years ago that's now irrelevant that I found interesting. But, well, spoiler alert, we'll leave it on that. First crucial moment was trying to identify what I was going to do with my life. Knowing that like that 14-year-old version of myself wanted to stay connected to like that community, that core community, these subcultures that had influenced every decision in my life. I ended up at BYU. And I was wildly confused on what I was going to do with my life. I got into the design program and I started to put together my book and my portfolio, but on account of my influence, which was punk rock, metal, skateboarding, skull and crossbones, that didn't exactly align with a lot of the teachings that were kind of going through that program. It was kind of at odds with it. And so at every turn I was fighting on like why I did what I did, what that meant, and I had to explain myself. And that's probably where this imposter syndrome has kind of sprung from my entire life of just trying to explain why I did what I did. But coming out of school, I was disoriented. I didn't know where my place in the world was, because like this world that I loved and that I wanted to be a part of had never really been showing me like what that path was, or where I needed to go to like find these people and do the work that I wanted to do. And so in a sheer panic, I took a job down in Utah County at this old technology called Novell. I woke up one day, found myself wearing khakis and Hagen shoes, and the most excitement I had going on was stroganoff on Thursdays in the cafeteria. I'm like, and it was that moment. I'm like, what am I doing? I've lost my path. I've made a wrong turn at Crossroads somewhere. And so, on a whim, I hightailed it up to Seattle. Sent my resume to my now good friend and mentor, and he understood immediately the visual language and where I came from and what was inspiring me. He found a place for me. And it was by pure happenstance and pure coincidence that I just happened to be at the right place in the right time. So I consider myself like really fortunate and blessed in that sense that like I found my tribe. But with those visuals and the influence, I found my legs. I found how to take inspiration that I found in my youth and throughout my life and begin to like build that into like products and offerings and use that as like a source of inspiration. And it was, like my notes. And it has become kind of the source of my career and my work to kind of find where those boundaries are and my creative voice. After Seattle, I was brought back to Salt Lake City kicking and screaming by the love of my life, my wife, who was not a big fan of the Northwest. And it was here that another crossroad, another milestone, another pivotal decision that I needed to make. And it was, do I carry on in this path that I've fallen in love with and that I've been able to like take my experience and my inspiration and build that into creative? Can I find that in Salt Lake? And the answer for me was no. I needed to kind of like set out on my own journey, and hence like STS was born. Few creatives, like shitbirds, as he would say, that we had no idea what we were doing as a business, but we wanted to do the work the way that we found and the way that we wanted to do it. But the crossroad moment with this was, it became less about me and more about employees and supporting them in their journey and understanding that like when they are at a point in their career at Crossroad and change needs to be made, that journey wasn't meant for me. Like I didn't need to take it personally when somebody was moving on, going on to a different chapter of their life. It was in this time that when we were meeting new companies, new brands, new clients, new entrepreneurs that like had a different perspective on what fueled them and where their passion was coming from. And it was understanding like how to take that, look at it, and put that back into like visuals and creative. Another hard lesson that I had to learn too was like, because of my influence and my inspiration, kind of where I came from, that wasn't completely unique to me. There were others that kind of were in that journey as well, but there were also others that came from a totally different place. Different walks of life, different inspiration, and learning how to like take those points of view and build that into creative and leverage that for our clients. There's client work that, this one in particular, where the energy and the passion was felt from day one. And these two gentlemen, Ryan and Dan, had a very different perspective on their industry and what fueled them and where their passions lie. And so it was a lot of understanding of like how to take their world, which was very much like in sneaker culture, like hip hop club, and find a visual language and representation to like build that into an experience and a voice in its own, and communicate to their clients from a different perspective, a different point of energy. And last but not least, is there a time check on the stuff? Okay. The next chapter, Crossroads, of my journey has been, it was alluded to, like the acquisition of my agency in September. With that comes challenges and benefits and insights that, frankly, I haven't been a part of, and I've learned to like embrace. But that's like understanding that there's an entirely different world of individuals that outside of my walls that are needing to kind of find their voice and their passion, and how to begin to like translate that into art and copy and use that for creative means. So what does this all mean? At the core of all this, and this is kind of the nugget, if anything is taken away from this little sermon today, take this. The answer is love. The answer is like always love. This year ago, December of 2023, I was in a little bit of a slump, a creative slump. It was a little bit of a crossroad where a lot of the talks about the acquisition are coming up, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm losing my place in the role, and I felt lost a little bit. I took on an insanely dumb at the time goal of what I thought would be rad, of creating a skateboard every day for 365 days. Initially, I was going to be a walk in the park, piece of cake, easy. I was wildly naive. It was incredibly difficult, but also one of the best things that I've done over the course of my career to like push those boundaries, like push myself, go back to that moment of that 14-year-old kid and finding inspiration and passion and energy, and I could pour myself into that. And I was beholden to nobody. I did what I wanted. It didn't matter. It didn't matter so much that I didn't even save the files. Like I would post it up on Instagram and deleted it immediately, which was wild in hindsight. But at the end of that January of this year, I had this moment, like one of those crossroads moments where I was finished and I kind of exhaled. I'm like, I did it. And then I did that question. I'm like, why did I do that to myself? Like, what the fuck, Jared? Like, why? And it dawned on me, and then I kind of went back again to that moment. Pure passion, pure love. I think as a creative, in any form or capacity, there needs to be like an understanding like of why we do what we do. And there needs to be an element of love. And we do this out of love for our clients. We do this out of love for the process. We do this out of love for what we get out of presenting and bringing to the world. But above all, when you're at that crossroad and you're looking for change, go back to that moment. Go back to like that crossroad where you decided on the path that you're on currently. And if you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled, and if there's no passion behind it, it's time to change. Do it for the love. Above all, like that's the reason. Take that away. That's all I got for you guys.